Hello, welcome back to another episode of This Drafty House. It's April 1st, so this video is going to be a March wrap-up, and I'm gonna chat a little bit about, I guess, like some creative things that I want to accomplish in the month of April. How are we already at April? It's crazy. Welcome, my name is Lindsay. I'm a yarn dyer based out of Hamilton, Ontario. I'm a mom, and this tiny space of the internet is my way of sharing the creative things that I like to do. Hobbies, just things that I am passionate about, that I enjoy. If you see me looking out the window, I am waiting for Canada Post to come and do a pickup. It always makes me anxious because they don't like me. My website is hosted via Shopify, and they don't do a manifest. Which is basically a sheet that has all of the barcodes for each individual package that they can just basically go like boom, 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 and scan. So every time they come to my house to pick up, they say, "Do you have a manifest?" And I say, "No," and then they grumble. So I'm just mentally preparing myself for that. But anyways, I have a few things to share with you. March was a weird month. It wasn't bad, it was just, it felt very chaotic. So I didn't do a lot of knitting, I did a lot of work. I worked a lot. And it was March break, so the kids were home. Well, Otis, our oldest, was home, and then when he went back to school, our youngest was home because daycare closed due to, the unmentionable stuff. So I didn't do a lot of knitting. I did cast on 2 new things. I can share one with you. One I have to wait. I have done 0 sewing, which is kind of killing me because I do love to sew. I ran out of serger thread, and while I could order it online, I like to go to this one particular store, but they just have really odd hours, so I was lazy. I haven't gotten there yet. So I have a few things that I need to finish sewing, but that are just on hold. I did a little bit of gardening, and I did a ton of reading. March, I read the most I've ever read in 1 month in March. So yeah, and then I did some book shopping. So I'm gonna share that with you too. Yeah, like I say in every video, reading is just something that has completely taken over my life, and I love it. And now Nick is reading, my husband. Not that he couldn't read, he just, like me, chose not to for a really long time. So he's started reading, and he's even started reading fantasy. Oh, it makes me so happy. He is on his 3rd book. He's reading Brandon Sanderson because I've never read Brandon Sanderson, but I went off on a tangent about Brandon Sanderson because he just announced, I think it was a Kickstarter campaign, and during the last 2 years of the pandemic, he's written 4 books, and so he did this Kickstarter thing to fund, I guess, publishing these books. So I was talking to Nick about it, and so then he fell down the Brandon Sanderson rabbit hole, And so he's decided, he's reading the Mistborn, the original Mistborn trilogy. I think there's more than the 3 books, but he's reading the 3 primary books. So he's about, I think he's 2/3 of the way through the 2nd book, and I ordered him the 3rd book, so he's got that ready for him. And he's loving it. Like, the other night he interrupted me reading because I guess he read something that happened in the book, and he was just like, I want to talk to you about it without spoilers. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so happy. So I have a lot of books to share with you. So maybe I will start with my one and only yarn acquisition this month, which if you've seen my previous videos, then you know that I treated myself to a 3-month subscription of 6 and 7 Fiber, their sock set yarn club. So this is the March one. This is my final one. But I received this in the mail this week, and it is so beautiful. Rachel is a genius. So this one is called Carrot Cake, and as with all of my other sock sets that I have from her, I did the Amaranth base, which is a 100% non-superwash merino, as well as the mini skein. So I've added this to my collection, and I mean, let's just look at this. These are all of my -2. These are all of my Rachel sock sets. I have a lot of socks I can make now, but it just feels good. It's nice to have all of these ready for me to knit and make socks, and I might even make a pair for Nick. Maybe. He would like that, but yeah, so my yarn buying is essentially, that was my last acquisition, and I've put the blinders on for buying yarn because I actually just recently went through my yarn stash because I haven't been knitting very much, and it makes me feel so guilty to just have all of this yarn sitting on my shelf that's just not being used. And I mean, I run a business selling and dyeing yarn, so I don't know. I destashed a little bit. I was very, very ruthless and very honest with myself, and it felt good. So now everything that I have is more or less like, they're really special to me and they mean something to me. But that brings me to my cast on, and I have to look up what the pattern is called because, like with anything relating to knitting right now, I feel like I'm not all there because I haven't been doing it very much. So let me go to my library. It is a petite knit pattern. It's the Ingrid sweater. There we go. I knew it was like a girl's name. Let's pull this up. So it is a textured sweater. One of my knitting goals for last year was to knit a cabled sweater. I started and then immediately put it on hold because I just felt like I was too distracted to give it that attention. So this looks like cables to me, but it's all just texture with knit stitches and purl stitches. You've probably seen this on Instagram. So I've decided to cast on that. Tommy! What I was saying is I decided to cast this on. I ended up having a bunch of my domestic Corriedale yarn. I had cakes from previous projects that were just kind of sitting. So I'm attempting to knit this pattern striped. So each textured section is going to be its own color. And I only work on it when I feel like it, so I don't have much to show, but I have started. This is like the back neck, so I'm just about through the short rows, and then you basically knit this back section to a certain point, and then you come back and you pick up the shoulders, and then you work your shaping, and then you join to work in the round. Her construction with patterns is always very interesting, but the fit is always super nice, I find. So I'm working on this, and the colors that I'm currently planning to use are, I think I'm gonna go with these. That's my current plan. Could change because I also have, can I do this? Yeah. This is why I could never be a waitress. So yes, these, and then I have, I also have like these, oh my gosh, and a light pink. So I don't know, it could change as I progress. I'm not in a rush to knit this. I'm just kind of going as I feel like knitting. Just because I feel like I definitely lost my mojo. This is Tom. And I don't want to rush into it or force it and then resent it, if that makes sense. Hey, sweet boy. Hi. So that is basically everything knitting or fiber related. I did mention that March was a really busy month for work. I ended up doing my first fiber event. I've done trunk shows in the past, but I always felt like trunk shows was different because you were in a shop full of yarn. So if you sold specific things or you ran out of specific things, there was always like that fallback where you could like run over and pair yarn from the shop with whatever you brought with you. This was like my first actual real yarn event, and there was a lot of anxiety that came with it. I overthink everything, and my biggest hurdle was figuring out how much to bring. Because the other part is that, you know, we are still in a pandemic, and I was like, are people even going to show up? Is the event even going to happen? It did, and it was actually really great. Everybody was so nice, and it was nice to be in public again, if that makes sense. By the end, I was definitely peopled out and very tired, but I'm really happy that I did it. I'm proud of myself for doing it because it is out of my comfort. And I had Nick with me, and that was really nice. I don't think I could have done it. I could have done it by myself, but I don't think it would have been as much fun. So that was what I did work-wise in March. That's all my knitting, that's my yarn. And now we're gonna chat about books because I love them. And we did a bit of thrifting, and I found some really good books thrifting. I was kind of like taken aback because it's getting nice outside. We're getting ready to put the our little free library out. We're gonna do like a debut thing, and so I've been collecting books, and as previously mentioned, my goal with the little free library is to thrift books, or like I get a box of used books from one of my local bookshops every month. That's about $25. So I want to try and put at least $20, $25 into the little free library at least once a month. of new books because, you know, the whole idea is that you take a book, leave a book, but people don't always do that. So I ended up finding, these ones are mine that I'm keeping, but I did find I have an entire crate of books ready to go. So I'm really excited about that. But I did find some gold thrifting. And I'm actually like so shocked. So we went to one of our local bookshops, the City and the City Books. They're just a few streets over, and they have new and used. So I found this, which Velvet Was the Night by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. She wrote Mexican Gothic. I have not read that. I have heard amazing things about this. So when I saw it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to grab it. But it wasn't until I got home that I realized it's a signed copy. So I was really stoked about that. So I'll be reading this. It was used, so I feel like that was a steal. And then at Value Village, of all places, I found a copy of Firekeeper's Daughter, which is like a fairly new book, I think. And it at Indigo, these are like, it's $25.99. I got this for $4. So I grabbed it. I don't really know what it's about, but I've heard amazing things about it. So it seemed like a no-brainer to me. And I will eventually try and read this. It's a part of Reese Witherspoon's YA book club. And she always picks really good books. So I was really excited to find this pretty much brand new for $4 at Value Village. And then this one is, I think, my most favorite find. It's Unfinished Tales by Tolkien. And this is in amazing condition. It is so old. When was this published? It was published in 1980. First published in 1980. And this copy is from 1980 because inside there was a scripture written. It says, "Merry Christmas, Dad, with lots of love, John. Christmas 1980. Which I just think is so special. It doesn't look like it's ever been read. It has all of the maps. But what's even more nifty about this is it has the big map on the inside. Like, how incredible is that? So our goal is actually this year, Nick and I both want to read Lord of the Rings. It's one of our favorite movies. Now I have to figure out how to flip this back up. It's one of our favorite movie, whatever you want to call it. There we go. Franchises, I guess. But we've never read the books, so we want to read them. We did this whole deep dive into how to what proper order you should read the books in. So we have big goals for that. So I was really excited to add this to our book collection. It's a really beautiful copy. I think it was like a great find, especially because it was $4. So really, really happy with that. And then I just kind of, you know, we found ourselves wanting, like, Nick, anytime Nick was like, want to go to the bookstore? I was like, yeah. Who would say no? So I picked up a couple of books that I had kind of seen and wanted to try. I picked up a couple of books based off of books that I read in March, and then I got some pre-orders in the mail, and I got I got some of my book subscription books in the mail, like my really beautiful copies that are signed by authors and like that come with like the fancy foiling and the sprayed edges. And when I say I was freaking out, I was freaking out. They're so beautiful. It's snowing outside now. I don't know what's going on with the weather. Let's see what's going on with Canada Post. Okay. They will be here soon, so I will be here and back. I think before we get into the books that I bought, I'm going to talk about the books that I read. And I read a lot of books. This isn't even all of it. I read 15 books. 15! It's wild to me. Did I love everything? No. Did I love most of it? Yes. It was a good mix of physical books with ebooks and audiobooks, because I listen to audiobooks while I work. I will start with book club, because our book club book was The Song of Achilles. I have a lot of feelings about this. I gave it 3 stars. Did not love it. Gave it 3 stars. I did tab it. Tom. What? Lie down. Just lie down. Can you lie down? What can I say about this book? Everyone said that it was heartbreaking, and yes, it is. But I think more than anything, I was infuriated. Like, I was frustrated with the story. And not because it's a bad story. I was more or less just like, it is a heartbreaking situation, and it was beautifully written. I'll give it that. It was very slow for me, so I found it hard to really get into it. I would say that by chapter 30, and I think there's only 35 chapters. How many chapters are there? $33. So by chapter 30 is when I felt like it really picked up. And then by chapter 33, I wanted to pitch the book across the room. I think that Achilles is incredibly selfish and self-centered. Thetis was a biatch. And Patroclus was just too good for everybody. So I don't know if I would read this again. I'm glad that I read it, but again, I only gave it 3 stars. Towards the end of the month, I read The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and The Queen of Nothing. It was okay. I didn't love it. It is literally the epitome of slow burn. And like enemies to lovers. Yeah. It was okay. I think I gave them 3 stars. I think I gave all of them 3 stars. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. So I read those. I also read, I'm actually going to pull them up because I know that a bunch of them were ebooks and then a bunch were audiobooks. So I read the Honey and Ice trilogy, which consists of A Court of Honey and Ash, A Throne of Feathers and Bone, and A Crown of Petals and Ice. And it's written by Shannon Mayer and Kelly St. Clair. I gave them... It says that I gave them 4 stars. I feel like they deserve 3. I didn't hate it. I mean, it was great world building. There was great, there was magic and, like, forbidden love and, yeah. By book 3, I think I read the first 2 books pretty fast, but then by book 3, there were like 3 or 4 false endings where I was like, this is just getting silly. Like, the book could have been over. So I think it was the 3rd book that I just was kind of like, I'm glad it was just a trilogy. They were good, not my favorite. I think I read them because somebody said if you liked books like ACOTAR, then that this would be like another series to read. It does not compare to ACOTAR at all. And then from there, I kind of segued away from that sort of fantasy, and I read this book. Okay. I tabbed it. I read this in less than 24 hours. I will say I love Greek mythology. I tried reading A Touch of Darkness. A Touch of Ruin, and I DNF'd A Touch of Malice. I think that's the order. Which is a Hades and Persephone retelling. It was hard to get through. I will say I found it to be super annoying, only because, you know, there was magic in it. Like, they still had like their powers, and they were still literally gods that could like control things, and you know, like, she would get hurt and then Hades would be like, are you okay? And, you know, she wouldn't respond right away, and then he would be like, I'm gonna take you. And I was just like, that's just not, was not my thing. This was, I keep calling it more of like a mafia style. Like, there's all of like the 12 main gods, and they all like, you know, are in control of their own sections of a city, and Zeus is like the main, he's like the top of the food chain. And Hades is on the other side of the bridge, who controls like the lesser part of the city, like basically, you know, the rougher part of town. They go by these names, Hades and Zeus and Persephone and Demeter, and like, they don't have magic. Like, there's no powers. They're not able to control people. Like, they're just, it's like very much like mafia to me. And I liked that part of it. I also found that they were, because they took the magic out of the story, they were more just like real people. And Hades, compared to the Hades in A Touch of Darkness, was so much more likable. Like, he had to basically, he was born into the role, and something happened in his life where then he suddenly became Hades, and like, he like struggled, or he's like, I have to basically put on this show that I am Hades, but I'm more than that. So I feel like I'm giving this book way more than it deserves, because it is like a spicy book, but I feel like there was balance with the characters and the storyline and the like sweet moments. It was good. I really liked this. So I actually, yeah, I gave this 4.5 stars. I would have given it 5, but I didn't want to seem crazy. I loved this. I could not put it down. This book kept me up until 3 a.m. because I loved it so much. So if you have read A Touch of Darkness and you want to read another Hades and Persephone retelling, read this. I'm almost mad at myself that I waited so long to read this. I loved it. And then I saw these two were recommended from Book Talk. And they're both like loose retellings. So the first one is called Hooked. This was Mafia. This was dark. But what I loved about it, so it's called Hooked. What I loved about it was it's like loosely inspired by Peter Pan, but it's not Peter Pan. It's like all of the nuances of Peter Pan. So, for example, Wendy is the main character, and Hook is the other main character, and that's his nickname. And gosh, what else? He has, where he lives is like a yacht, essentially, and it's called the Tiger Lily. His bar, what was his bar called? The Jolly Roger. He had multiple bars, but his bar was called the Jolly Roger. Something happened in his life that was traumatic, and one of his triggers that would set him off into like, I guess like a panic attack, was the sound of a pocket watch. So like just things like that I found were really interesting. This was a quick read. I think I read this in 2 nights. It does have a note from the author. It is a dark contemporary romance, and it's a fractured fairy tale. I believe she's doing like a series like that. So each book is a fractured fairy tale, so like Beauty and the Beast, things like that. The main character is a villain. If you're looking for a safe read with redemption and a bad guy turned into a hero, you will not find it in these pages. And then she ends it with trust the process. So this was entertaining to read. I liked it. I can't remember what I gave it. I think I might have given it 3.5 stars. And then I became completely enamored with this next one, which is an ongoing series, which is killing me because I thought it was a finished trilogy. So I read the 3 books. There's more coming out, so now I have to painfully wait, and it ended on this crazy cliffhanger. Anyways, I read A Ruin of Roses by K.F. Breen. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but the Beast is a dragon, and there's demons, and it's just wild. It was wild. So I think I read this in a night. It might have been 2 nights. Same thing, like I couldn't put it down. It's not a very big book. And then I read book 2 and book 3 on my e-reader because I could not find physical copies of this. And the story was just fantastic. I loved it. It was that whole like, they realize, you know, like in Beauty and the Beast, she's taken prisoner, but he actually only calls her his prisoner because there are worse monsters out there that would do worse to her if she was not under his protection. So it's like one of those. And then, you know, it's the whole like stubbornness of, I don't want to like you, but I do like you. It's really good. If you like that sort of thing, I recommend it. So the second book is called A Throne of Ruin, and the third book is called A Kingdom of Ruin, and there's another book that's coming out. I don't think until later this year, which is what I'm hoping for. I think, if I remember correctly, it's like November. Then I read Wild and Wicked Things by Francesca May. That book has come out. I have a copy because I pre-ordered it and it came. I think it's up there. But I read I had a advanced reader's copy. I gave it 3 stars. It was slow. The writing is beautiful. The character development was great. It is told from multiple perspectives, so it's one where it's bouncing all over the place, so you really have to focus on what you're reading, and that's where I was struggling, because usually I'm fine with that stuff, but there were so many characters that it was bouncing between. And because it was a slower story and it took a while for it to build, that's where I mostly struggled with it. But it is out now. It came out at the end of last month. So you should definitely check it out if you like witches, and takes place just after World War I. It's a very interesting story. Then the other book that I read and I loved was, did I read this month? I guess I did. Master of Salt and Bones. Wow. I gave it 4 stars. I loved it. It is a dark, mysterious, fast-paced book. I think I again read it in like 2 nights. And it's very much, it's gothic. I just really liked it. It was good. Like, it was dark, but at the same time, it was just like, you know, watching like a really good movie. I did want more, I will say that. 1 book was not enough, but I really, really enjoyed it. There was plot twists and the character development, and again, like a guy who is, you know, misjudged by people who don't know the real story. And yeah, just really, really liked it. And then I finished off the month yesterday with Crave by Tracy Wolff, and it's a series. I think it's called the Crave series. I don't know. It's I guess it's a YA fantasy romance. I never read Twilight. To this day, I've still never read Twilight. I have seen the movies. I have not read the books. This to me gave Twilight vibes, but maybe more angsty and more like fast-paced. You've got vampires, you've got humans, you've got shifters. They're called shifters because they don't need the full moon to shift, so they're not technically werewolves, but they do shift into wolves. You've got witches and warlocks. I think that's where I'm at with the first book. It was decent. I listened to it on audiobook. It's what I listened to while I was working. And I got them from the library. So I started the second book, and I think I'm like 10 chapters in already. And it's good. I mean, it's not like a life-changing read, but it's entertaining. I really like just getting lost in the world, I guess. So yeah, it was a really good reading month for me. I set my Goodreads reading challenge. So for perspective, I read 25 books last year. My reading goal was 24 books. And so I was like, I'm going to play it safe, and I'm going to up my reading challenge, but not by like a lot. So I've set my reading challenge to 36 books this year. And as of yesterday, I have read 32 books. So feeling really good about crushing that goal. And I'm just so hungry for more books. So some of the additional books that I picked up that I'm excited to get into. So because I liked Neon Gods so much, I picked up Electric Idol, which follows Persephone's sister, Psyche. And Eros. So I'm excited to read this. There's a third one coming out, and I did pre-order that, so that will be eventually coming to me. So I'm probably going to read this month because I liked Neon Gods so much, and I've heard that they're all just really good. And then just to like throw something different out there, I picked up The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is actually for both Nick and I to read. We both want to read this book. The second one comes out on April 12th, and I've just heard nothing but amazing things about this story, and everybody who has read this, like, it just nothing but good things about it. So very excited to give this a read. I'm hoping that I get to it before Nick does, because I read faster than he does. But yeah, so picked up this, which is very exciting. And then I got a couple of my pre-orders. So one of the pre-orders that I got was Wild and Wicked Things by Francesca May. And then this is the other one, which I feel like this is probably one of my top most anticipated book releases this year. Mostly because the story sounds incredibly interesting, but the book art is just so beautiful. And I know you should not judge a book by its cover, but when you see this, you'll understand why it is just so beautiful. So this is called A Magic Steeped in Poison, and this is by Judy I. Lin. And so this is: for Ning, the only thing worse than losing her mother is knowing that it's her own fault. She was the one who unknowingly brewed the poison tea that killed her mother. The poison tea that now threatens to also take her sister's Shu. When Ning hears of a competition to find the kingdom's greatest, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, Shengyangshi masters of the ancient and magical art of tea making, she travels to the imperial city to compete. The winner will receive a favor from the princess, which may be Ning's only chance to save her sister's life. But between the backstabbing competitors, the blood court politics, and a mysterious and handsome boy with a shocking secret, Ning might actually be the one in more danger. So it just sounds amazing. It is such a beautiful, like, it's so beautiful. So I received this. I'm very excited to give that a read. And then one of the BookTube people that I follow mentioned that she picked this book up and she read it. And it is so different than anything I have ever seen. But I feel like it's also going to be a great conversation piece to maybe have on like the coffee table. So this is called Ain't Burned All the Bright by Jason Reynolds with artwork by Jason Griffin. And so it is essentially 3 long, very long sentences, but it's been paired with artwork. So it's more of a visual. Let's see if I can do this. So it's more of a visual, like it's literally somebody's sketchbook, and then it's just got like 3 very long sentences throughout. So the words are just as important as the visuals, and I thought that this was just such a really interesting book. And those are some of the books that I bought this month. Definitely not everything, because I've been buying a lot of books. I also bought, I have this deck to show off, but I also, on a whim, picked up this book just last week called Small Favors by Erin A. Craig. On the back it says, "Enter not the forest deep, beyond the bells the dark fiends keep." It's also just another stunning book. And then look at the bookends on the inside. So beautiful. I think so I picked up this. I won't go into too much detail about it because I have a bunch of more books to show you. But I looked up the heart's desire always comes with a price. So the reviews for this online were amazing. And even, I always find it's really promising when you get to the checkout and the person at the checkout says, you're going to love this book and it's so good. And that's what they said with this. So I was really happy to pick that up. Everything else that I want to show are books that I got in my book subscriptions. So I subscribe to Illumicrate, Owlcrate, and Fairy Loot. So I've gotten quite a few because some of them take a really long time to get here. Like this was one of the ones that I got. I showed this last time. This is from Illumicrate. This is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross, and this is actually the book that we're reading this month for book club. So I'm really excited to dive in, and like these are just such beautiful editions of the books, which is partially why I subscribe to these services. I am figuring out which ones are maybe more aligned with like what I like. I'm actually thinking once my Fairy Loot subscription, I did 3 months. Once it's done, I'm going to switch to the book only, so that all I get is the book and not the extra doodads that come inside. But one of the other ones, or some of these, oh, there's a lot. This one was from Owlcrate. So this one is called A Forgery of Roses by Jessica S. Olsen. And in the letter from the author, she says that this is a fantasy and a murder mystery thriller. So that sounds really interesting. It's not my favorite artwork. It's really shiny. I don't think I really like the shiny. I love the sprayed edges. They're like this deep, deep red. And then the inside is a double colored foil. And the dust jacket is reversible. So this is on the other side. But again, it's like super shiny. It's like high gloss. So I got this. I had never heard of this book until I received it, but it sounds really interesting, so I'm definitely going to give it a shot and read it. And then I think one of the other books that I got, yeah. So I guess every so often they include a paperback special edition. And so what came with A Forgery of Roses was Frankenstein by Mary Shelley and custom artwork. It's really awesome. So I'm excited. We actually don't have a copy of Frankenstein, so it's nice to have that. It's like so stiff though. So that was another one. I also received, I'm trying to remember who these are from, Owlcrate. So this is another Owlcrate. This one is called Only a Monster by Vanessa Len. And I have heard a lot about this. This was actually on my TBR. So I got this copy. So custom dust jacket. Custom foiling. Nothing on the back. Sprayed edges. It's all black. Very sleek. The dust jacket is reversible. So custom artwork on the dust jacket. And then with the same with the Forgery of Roses, they are signed by the author. Some of the signatures are so cool too. So she signed with gold Sharpie, and then the next, like, it goes pitch black. It's super cool. Let's see what the Forgery of Roses signature, a super cool red Sharpie. Okay, so one of the books that I was, or was on my most anticipated releases list was Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I actually didn't know that it was going to be one of the book of the months. So I pre-ordered a special edition signed copy from the author, and I think from Fairy Loot. So I haven't received it yet. But turns out it was one of the Illumicrate books. And if you've seen the original one, it's almost square. Like, I actually bought a copy and then I remembered that I pre-ordered it, so I returned it. And I didn't like the shape of the book. This is the one that I received from Illumicrate, which I love, and the sprayed edges. So it's like dead down here, and then it meets in the middle, and then it is alive up here. And then if you take off the dust jacket, custom foiling, and then the inside, the bookends are really cool. I don't believe it was a signed copy. No, but it is a beautiful copy inside. So I received this. I'll be getting the special edition signed one as well. And that one is completely different. I've seen what it looks like. It's all black. I think it's black and silver. But this was one of the books that I received. So this is Illumicrate. And then the one that I received this week that I completely lost my mind over. This book I did pre-order from my bookstore. Tom? Okay, without further ado, this copy came. It is so beautiful. So this is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axio. I hope I'm saying her name right. And this is... Okay, so The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. This is the Fairy Loot edition. Oh, it's so beautiful. The sprayed edges to match the main color of the dust jacket. There's the dragon. And then it's just so beautiful. I'm dead. So the custom foiling. The end papers. Like, look at that. So beautiful. And the signature. So this is a complete and utter work of art. It's so beautiful. And it's the story. I have been so excited for this book to come out, and I'm just over the moon. You don't know what book you're getting. They give you hints. They give you like a theme, but you don't know what the book is until it arrives. And it's so beautiful. So those are the books that I have bought, the books I've received, the books I've thrifted. I don't really have a TBR going into March because last month really worked for me, just picking books based off of my mood. The only thing that's on the agenda to read for April is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. And the other book that I would like to try to read this month is Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. I've been seeing a couple of things on this story, and I've had this on my shelf for a little bit now, and there is a second book because it's a duology. So that one's called Vow of Thieves. I don't know if it's out yet, but I'm very excited to read this. And the inside has these beautiful maps. So these are essentially what I'm hoping to read. If I get to it, then I would also like to try Electric Idol. But again, I'm just kind of going with the flow, allowing myself to be a mood reader. It's working really well. And yeah, I'm hoping that next time I do a video, I will have like some gardening updates. I placed a dahlia order, so I'm just waiting for some tubers to come. I planted a bunch of tulips. I'm hoping that they start to grow. Our season is just all over the place right now. It doesn't know if it wants to be spring or winter, which is Canada. And then hopefully the next time I do a video, the library will be set up and I can show that off as well, because I'm very excited to get that outside and out of my den here. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope it was good, entertaining. Let me know in the comments if you're reading anything right now, or if you read anything in the last month that was like your all-time favorite book that you've read, or like a 5-star read or a 4-star read, or maybe a book that you read that you thought you would like but you didn't like. I'm very curious. I love talking about this stuff. If you want to join the book club, I'm now hosting it over on my Patreon. It is $2 a month, and there's a private Discord where we can chat about all of the books. There's a buddy read set up, so if you are thinking of picking up a book to read and you're curious if anybody else has the book or wants to read the book, it works kind of like classifieds, where you can put out your info and be like, I want to read this book. Does anybody else want to read it with me? And yeah, and that's everything from me for today. So yes, I will try and get this edited and up onto YouTube this weekend, and I hope that you're all having a great spring and that your April brings less showers and maybe more flowers. I don't know. Thank you so much for being here. If you like this video, then give it a thumbs up. If you like the content, then maybe you could subscribe. You don't have to. But anyways, I hope that you have a great day, and I'll be back again soon.